I hope you internalize the fact that respect, dignity, civility, show of values, and living them up are extremely crucial in our life. And the one place where it really starts is in conversations. So, drawing a line and maintaining healthy boundaries in conversations is extremely crucial. We are living in times where many of us have seen reels or videos of a manager or a leader screaming at his people, or we've heard about an abusive email which fired tons of employees, or there was mischief mongering and a wrong claim of abuse filed by somebody to vindict some other person. And this is not just in organizations, but cases filed in courts and all of these things. We are living in times where it is considered very cool to use cursing and abusive language. In fact, I have seen so many videos of people using certain words and justifying them not as word or abuse, but an emotion. They're saying it's just a way to remove or release emotions. Or I've even seen a video where somebody put a long definition of what is abuse, and they justified it by saying that this is a non-physical way of expressing violent energy, and justified it. We're also living in those times where there are people who are doing stand-up acts, etc., and they use so much of abusive language, and people stand up and clap to that and cheer to that. We are also living in those times when language of different places is compared and said, oh, your abuses are so simple versus your abuses are so complex. And there are people who teach others how to use language to malign and trip others. In fact, there are proper marketing schools which are teaching how to socially trap people with drip marketing methods, etc. All very, very manipulative methodologies. At the end of it, all manipulative communication is going to show up and get caught. Bad communication is used by people who are trying to control the other human and not the conversation. Let me repeat what I said. Bad conversation and bad conversation styles like abusing, cursing, violence, vulgar language, manipulative language, all of this is used by people, weak people, who are trying to control the other human being or human beings and not really control the conversation. They don't have the real skill sets to have an intelligent, flowing, fluid, flexible conversation. A conversation where ideas, the intent, the clarity is put across, and a conversation where accountability is arrived at. People are not capable of that. That's why they resort to manipulative language. So ask yourselves this question: are you using any of such language? Because if you are using anger in conversation, highly likely you're feeling powerless to control that situation. So you're trying to control the human being by using anger. I've in fact heard this justification from angry people saying that if I don't get angry, people don't do things. So it's as simple as that. You're trying to control the human being and not the conversation. Instead of having influencing skills, you're trying to use anger, etc. If you're trying to get appreciation by flowery, vulgar language, or if you're trying to get appreciation by using abusive language, which encourages the other person to giggle and cheer you, then again, you don't have the skill sets to have that intelligent conversation. So, my encouragement to you: understand that cursing, abusing doesn't help. It's really bad language. And the way you need to cut this out is, imagine if all your conversations are being heard by your child, your 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old, your child, or if your mother was listening to it, or if your spiritual guru was listening to it, or if a seasoned coach and mentor who's been grooming you, that person is listening to it. How would that conversation be viewed if your child, your parent, mother, or if your guru or if your coaches are hearing this, make every conversation's quality correct by this standard, that these people who are your well-wishers, they should say positive things about your conversations. So if you have to get rid of violence in your conversation, you have to not just be emotionally honest, but you have to be emotionally intelligent in choosing the words, being aware when you're getting triggered, what kind of words do you need to use, how do you submit something. Instead of using vulgar or cursing language or inappropriate speech, you have to see how that idea is even coming in your head, that, and how do you need to express a positive idea instead of being critical or judgmental or saying something negative, or instead of guilt tripping somebody or gaslighting somebody, or creating emotional denial or emotional distance from the other person to torture the other person to do something your way. How can you express your desire in that relationship correctly? So, if you have to control the conversation and not control the person, you will really need good skills. But that skill really starts with thinking. Remember, all conversation is first created in the head, and then it is created in the between two people or between a set of people. So, what's in your head is very important. So, you have to anchor down the kind of values that you're going to live with. You have to anchor down subject matter knowledge, whatever you're dealing with, whether it's your family or it's a friend circle or it's your workplace. What are the various things that I need to deal with? How intelligent am I about this? How well read am I about this? And that's where your own knowledge is going to be very, very critical in you being able to have the right conversation. Your vocabulary, your choice of words, how rich is your vocabulary, how clear is your sentence construction, how clear and eloquently can you put passages and paragraphs together, can you hear and listen and understand and comprehend and deeply configure in your mind the picture that the other person is trying to convey. Or are you both just spending time in a notion of understanding, and which will break down at some point in time? So understand the boundaries of communication can be set, number one, by stopping cursing, abusing, vulgar language, violence, manipulation, etc. So put a boundary so that none of these negatives enter. And within the positive boundary of communication, you need to have the right kind of thought process, and the thought process come from clear values, clear knowledge and skills, and clear vocabulary and language construction. That clear language is then going to come from your ability to listen, understand situation, and have understand the situation and have a dialogue with the other person. A dialogue is a matter of expressing intent, looking at solutions, agreeing with clarity and with accountability. And the last and the very important boundary of any conversation is, like I said, the respect that every human being is unique, and you need to make the effort to deal with the conversation and not control the person. So you'll have to stop trying to control others and use the right methodology to convince somebody. If you can't convince someone, then you need to get convinced. Or if both of you are stuck, then you need to find a third person who can convince you both of a better, bigger outcome. That's the way you set up the right kind of boundaries for communication. Work on this. There's a lot to do. Now, when you're working with others, if you experience negative language, then you can always say, look, I don't respond to such disrespectful language. Or let's try to say this a lot more constructively as compared to how we are talking about it right now. Or if you catch yourself saying something negative, or if you've made a mistake by putting violence into the communication or using some inappropriate words, stop, correct, apologize, and then say, okay, let me try and reframe what I say, saying, let me speak this from your perspective and what is in it for you. That's the way that you change your language. Remember, your words are going to be the way you will be remembered. And and also from your deeds. But remember, your words will cut. And there are people who have great deeds, but they have very bad words, very bad way of speaking, and they're remembered by that. So a lot of your reputation is your words, because people know that when you speak, that's what is in your mind and in your heart. So that impression is going to really matter. Your destiny with others is going to depend on what they think of you. Your progress is going to depend on that. If they think good of you, they'll be supportive. If they don't think good of you, they'll not be supportive. Communication is an endless process. It's an infinite process. What you say today may end up being a disagreement 3 years later. What you say today or what you do today may end up being a very big support to you later. Your natural way of speaking, and if you have a reputation of being a good, decent, clean, rational speaker, even before you get into a meeting, even before you get into a conversation, even before you get into an exchange, people may already be convinced and bought into you. Remember, people buy into who you are every day, not just in one conversation. So, I remember this from a training program that I attended long back, a beautiful statement that you can't talk yourself out of something that you have behaved yourself into. And our regular interactions with others is a way that we are behaving. Our communication is a great part of our behavior. Once you have had bad behavior, you will not be able to talk yourself out of it. You will have to behave very differently. So choose your communication very carefully. Draw boundaries, keep negatives out, develop great capability. If you make a mistake, own up and correct it. If you are being subject to violent or bad communication, cut it out completely. Don't be at a time or place where people are cheering for bad, vulgar language, abusive communication. Even if it's a stand-up comedy evening that you've gone for, don't make it a habit or any part of your life to be anywhere near bad communication. Don't do it. Don't tolerate it. Have a great boundary of communication. It'll help. What's in your mind is what's being put out, and what you put out really becomes your personality and reputation. Have a great one at that. Build your success first by building successful communication.